let's go see what's happening in the garden. Today, I want to just give you an introduction to the veggie garden that we've got going on. And as you come up to it, you'll see this arbor at the gate. And we have grapevines planted on either side. We just cut these back a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, the grapes are starting to really grow. Well, the vines are. They're starting to leaf out a little bit here. There's not a lot going on up overhead. There's nothing there. But in, probably just a few weeks, they'll have filled this whole thing in and you'll walk through a tunnel of grapes to get into the garden. So we built 13 raised beds, a few at a time. And here's kind of the overview of it as we walk in. Go back this way. And we'll just go around and see what we've got here. Here we have some strawberries. They got transplanted recently. We used to have these in stacked clay pots. We had some trouble with the watering system. The pots disintegrated, and so they just start growing like weeds on the ground. So we got rid of the stacked pots and dug them all up and transplanted them into here just about a week or so ago. And they look like they're doing quite well. They got a little shocky, but they're coming along. A few more strawberries in another pot, a few more still on the ground. These are tomatillos. We've never tried growing tomatillos. And so as you can see by the little plastic signs, we bought these as starts, meaning young plants at the nursery, and then just built this trellis with some leftover material. We're super excited about making some tomatillo salsa. We're all about the salsa here. Over here is another pot of strawberries. These guys are looking a little more ratty. It's kind of what they look like in the ground, but they'll come back. Here is one of 5 cloth bags we're trying this year to grow our potatoes. If you look in here, you can see them just starting to pop up. And we'll talk more about potatoes later. These bags will make it easier to harvest. Here are a couple of big rosemary plants that are really waiting for me to put them in the ground. And over here, we have our leeks and our onions. And you're supposed to plant these pretty early, like January, but every year when we do them that early, they don't do so well. So we planted them, I don't know, late February, early March. And you buy them in starts, which are teeny tiny little plants. They're mail order. And they come in, you put them in the ground, and then they look like they die. And it takes them a week or more before they start to rally. And as you can see, they're doing really well right now. You may have noticed when I spun around that we have a couple of covered beds. So last winter we had 4 beds covered all winter with this frost cloth. And this is sort of pretty heavy frost cloth. I think it got between 5 and 10 degrees protection from the weather. And we grew a couple kinds of kale, Swiss chard, arugula, bok choy, broccoli rabe, and more over the winter. And it was awesome. We can harvest all year round. And then we started some lettuce and spinach indoors when it was still too cold to put it in the ground, and transplanted it here a few weeks ago, and ta-da! Look at how well it's doing. It's a little unruly. We've been harvesting, so this is spinach on the right, butter lettuce in the middle, and then romaine on the left. And we've been harvesting these leaves instead of cutting them as heads. But we got busy last weekend. I didn't get to harvest. We harvest every week and they come back. We have a plentiful supply harvesting every week. It's awesome. This bed has, they're coming along. 3 kinds of kale starts. These are little kale plants. And they will grow huge and be really productive. See, that's got something ready to harvest. And then there's Swiss chard. And then at the far end, if you can see, is arugula. This bed's almost ready to be uncovered. Right now, the cover for these 2 beds is staying on, not to protect from frost, but to provide a little shade and also protect from the birds. A ton of birds migrate through here in the spring, and they love to eat our greens. Jim likes to feed the birds, but we have to stop in the spring again because it just draws them into the yard, and the finches will go to town on the greens, which I wouldn't mind, but they're not good sharers. This is our root veggie bed, and we planted this about 2 weeks ago, and it's growing really quickly. This bed will be beautiful in a couple of weeks as well. The root veggies don't actually finish that quickly, but if you look on this end, we have golden beets and rutabagas. Rutabagas are really slow growing, but I really like them. Carrots, green onions, more carrots, more rutabagas, and then some ruby beets. A few more potato bags, and then here is, oh my goodness, we're moving on to some of our favorite beds. We're fans of nightshades. Nightshades are potatoes, eggplants, chili peppers, tomatoes, and we love them all. And this year we decided to grow all of our nightshades from seed, but our peppers, it turns out, peppers are really slow to germinate. The hotter they are, apparently, the slower they are to germinate. And we just need to start them earlier next year, but I'll show you the babies in another clip. Anyhow, we are going to have 2 full beds of peppers. We couldn't find all the chilies we wanted, so I ordered the last batch. They're on their way from Cal Poly Pomona, and they should be here any day. And what's this? Oh, this is a locust tree. Locust seeds just keep coming up everywhere, and they're really hard to get rid of. Aha, look at those roots. Anyway, we love our chili peppers. We'll eat chilies 3 meals a day, make tons of salsa, and more. Excuse me. This is basil, which we started from seed for the first time this year. We started it in the house as well. We had shelves, rolling racks, 2 rolling racks full of seedlings in little plugs and grow lights. And then this big stuff here, which I think is beautiful, is fava beans. These were started inside as well, and when they were about 3 or 4 inches tall, we moved them outside, and now you can see they're probably 4 feet tall. They've got tons of flowers on them, beautiful flowers. When they open up, they have little dark specks in them, and then each of these flowers, hopefully, here's one really pretty one. Each of these flowers is going to produce a fava bean pod, and fava beans are kind of challenging. They're a lot of work to get to eat, but oh, they're so good. And then in between here, you might be able to see there's carrots, which I had forgotten I'd planted. This bed had carrots and beets in it over the winter, and we just harvested the beets last weekend. Okay, over here, another one of our favorites is the tomato plants. These tomatoes, can you see these cages that they're in? They're in cages about 7 feet tall, and the tomatoes are an interesting story. So we had a very dear friend by the name of Chuck, who was like a second father to me. And he was known as the tomato guy at the farmers markets. He would research and order heirloom seeds and start tomatoes from seeds every year. And then he'd give us our pick of the seedlings. And he passed away in January. He actually he even married us. He was a very, very dear friend. But he passed away in January, and we inherited his grow lights and some of his gardening supplies. And before he passed away, we promised him that we would carry on his tradition and start tomatoes from seeds this year and give them to people. And so we did. We started 72 different tomato plants. I think we had like 20 some odd types. And then we grew, we started 3 or 4 of each because we weren't really sure of the germination rate. And everything grew. So we gave tomatoes away left and right this year, and it was really fun. And in fact, I'll come back over here, we already have our first tomatoes on the vine, which is really early for us. And I don't know if you can see in here, yep, some baby sun gold tomatoes that'll be ready to eat in maybe a week. And then this bed, so we have 20 plants of tomatoes. This bed you'll see some empty space. There are going to be more eggplants coming in there soon. And look, here's a rogue lettuce plant. We used to have lettuce in this bed. Over here are our sugar snap peas. And I love these. These are a cool weather crop. So I planted them, I think in very early March, late February. And they just didn't take off. About half of them didn't seem to germinate or got eaten. And so I replanted, and as you can see, almost every single one has come up. And they're climbing up this trellis. And these should be really productive. In between them, I have eggplants in each quadrant, and Something's eating them. Look at that. That's awful. We need to spray these. We're doing organic here, and so we're just spraying with organic materials like neem or water. Oh, that's awful. This is gonna need a blasting. Okay. See, this is why you walk through the garden every day. Over here is our row of blackberries, and we cut these back to about 3.5 feet every year, and then they just grow like weeds. They have just started to flower, which is really exciting because that means they're going to have fruit. Oh, look, there's some fruit set already. I don't know if you can see the little baby blackberry fruit. We get gallons of blackberries, and we freeze them, we make jam, we eat them fresh. It's pretty nice. And then this bed, as you can see, is a mess. This is full of weeds and wells of water. And these walls of water worked as insulation around our tomato plants. We had them up until last weekend when we pulled them off and put these cages in. The cages, again, are about 7 feet tall, and the tomatoes will grow out the top of them. And then finally in here we have our garlic and shallots. And these get planted in the fall. And every year we save some of last year's harvest, some of the biggest ones, to plant again. And they keep really well. We're still eating the last of last season's garlic and shallots. So if you're gardening seriously, then you're also becoming a food preserver. That's why they have master gardeners and master food preserver classes, which I hope to take one of these years. And if you look inside the shallots in the bed, you can see there are some potato plants growing, and this is not intentional. This was our potato bed last year, and apparently we didn't get them all out when we harvested. So we'll talk a little more about the principles of the garden later, but I want to show you a couple more things. This is a early composter. We'll talk about soil and composting another time. But I want to show you a key part of the garden, which is the girls, and this is their home. And then here's the run. They're all out in the side yard now, but let's see if they'll come say hi. Hey, girls. Chick, 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 chicks. Oh, yeah. They're beggars. So there they are. Those are the girls. Hi, girls. All right. And more on them later. But that's an overview of the garden. So here we are on the back deck. And these are the last of the seedlings that I was talking about. So we grew most of our things from seeds this year. First time we did nightshades from seeds. And here are some. Remember I said the eggplants and peppers were just a little slower to harvest. I think we needed to plant them earlier. Here you can see them now. Look at the size compared to the ones in the garden. Those are some chili peppers. These are some eggplants. Yeah, they're doing all right. We just transplanted these from the tiny little plugs we had them in under the grow lights into these little 3 and 4 inch pots this weekend. And they're doing quite well. I need to feed them. I'll probably give them some foliar kelp spray, which makes them really happy. And they're doing okay, but you can see they're tiny, but we're still hoping they're gonna make it because some of these eggplants, like the fairy tale and the Rosa Bianca and the ping tongue, we just couldn't find this year. And